Good morning, everyone. This week we begin reading the Torah portion of Noah. And we all know the story of the great flood. How God saw that the world was corrupt and evil. And the word actually to describe the evil and the corruption and the murderous behavior of mankind in this week's Torah portion is Hamas. The world was filled with Hamas. And so God says, I'm going to flood the world and reset the world with Noah and his family, reboot the whole world, to rid the world of the evil and the corruption. And we all know that God brings a flood for 40 days and 40 nights. But although the actual flood only lasted 40 days and 40 nights, Noah and his family spent an entire year in the ark. First it says he sent out the raven to see if the waters had receded, but the raven did not return, so he sent out a dove, and then the dove returned, could not find a place to land, to find dry land, so the dove returned, and then Noah sent out the dove a second time, and eventually it came back with an olive branch, and then he knew the waters had receded. So while the flood lasted 40 days, Noah and his family spent an entire year in the ark. And the commentaries ask, why did he have to spend the whole year in the ark? Surely God could have made that the water should recede earlier, so he could leave the ark and not be in cabin fever for a whole year. And one of the beautiful answers given why God deliberately kept him in the ark for a year is because as God was going to make a new world order with Noah and his family, God wanted them to prepare for this new world order by instilling the attribute that the world is built on originally. It says the world was built on kindness. Olam chesed yibaneh. And therefore God wanted to rebuild the world anew through kindness. And what did Noah do for an entire year during the flood and afterwards till he left? He and his family were responsible for feeding all the animals on the ark. There was this mobile floating zoo, and he had to feed all the animals to preserve life for all the animals. And only after he finished the 1 year experience of feeding all the animals, then he was able to emerge from the ark and begin renewing the world through the attribute of kindness. We are now at a stage in life that we realize that we have to cut out this cancer in our midst of evil. And it's not just in the Middle East. We're seeing it on our college campuses right here. And not just on the college campuses, some of the most elite college campuses. And in rallies in New York and in London where people are celebrating and supporting people who behead babies and burn grandmothers alive. This is the evil we're experiencing around the world. And therefore there has to be a new order to the world. We have to rid the world of this evil of Hamas, this brutality, this savagery. And the way to do it is through the attribute of kindness. And this is what we're seeing in Israel, an outpouring of love and kindness. You know, if God forbid someone did what Hamas did to the Jews, but they did it to animals, they beheaded cats and dogs and burnt them alive, these same liberal groups that are rallying in support on the college campuses for Hamas would be outraged. They would say animal rights. But Hamas and their supporters have no respect for human life, no respect for any life, surely not the life of Jews. As opposed to Israel, who celebrates the value of every human life. As a matter of fact, that some of the terrorists who were caught in Israel are now being treated, the wounded terrorists are being treated by Israeli doctors and nurses in Israeli hospitals. That's the extreme value of life that Jews have, as opposed to Hamas that stands for death and destruction. And sometimes people say to me, well, it's complicated. Or you hear people in the campuses or in the world saying it's complicated. No, it's not complicated. They say there's two sides to the story. Yes, there is two sides. There's good and evil. And either you stand with good or you stand with evil. This Shabbat we're bringing a woman by the name of Rivka Slonim. She's the head of the rector of Chabad on campus in Binghamton University. She's going to talk to us firsthand what she's seen over the 30 years, the evolution of what is being taught on our campuses. Is there moral clarity or seemingly no moral clarity on campuses today anymore? And we're going to spend Shabbat. It's going to be a Shabbat of solidarity and unity. And I hope everyone will come out We need to strengthen each other and strengthen the Jewish people. And we need to open our eyes to what is happening, not just in the Middle East with Hamas, but their supporters and sympathizers all over the world, including where our kids are going to school and in our communities, like these vile, disgusting rallies we've seen in New York City and other places, people chanting and supporting bloodthirsty killers. This is a threat not just to Israel, but to our very own country and society. Last week on Thursday, just days after the brutal attack, there was a pro-Hamas Palestinian rally on the campus of University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, UNC at Chapel Hill. And these hundreds of pro-Palestinian Hamas were chanting and supporting Hamas and their attack against Israel and speaking vile words against the state of Israel, blaming the victims. And there was a Jewish professor there, one of the faculty members, and he came out, he was outraged, and he walked up to the protest and he started yelling at them, Nazis, Nazis, you're a bunch of Nazis. And it got so confrontational that the police had to break it up and take the professor away to remove him from the crowd because he was so outraged. The professor went to class the next day, and a young lady in the classroom got up and walked up to the class and said, I saw what you did yesterday, how you stood up to those pro-Hamas demonstrators and you shouted them down with the word Nazis. I was so proud of you, professor. And she brought a bouquet of flowers and presented it to her professor, her Jewish professor, and everyone started to applaud. And the professor looked at her and said, are you Jewish? Why did you decide to buy me this bouquet of flowers? And she said, I'm not Jewish, but I know that morality and justice and righteousness stands with the Jewish people in the state of Israel. And I was proud to see my professor stand up against those who support evil. This has never been a time like this that I can recall, where every person in the world is called to stand up because the forces of darkness and evil are coming to the forefront. And if we are going to save not just Israel, but the world from this evil, the forces of good must stand together and be louder and stronger than those who support this kind of evil. Have a wonderful day and look forward to seeing everyone this Shabbat at our special Shabbat dinner and Solidarity Shabbat, learning about what's happening on the front lines of our campuses.